What's up guys, today is a bit of an unexpected video because today Konami just announced, well, might have been yesterday for me actually, but yesterday Konami announced I guess you could call it an emergency ban list, but they've been referring it as a adjusted list. Now this means that they have mid-format for any major Konami sanctioned event, they have banned and limited a couple of cards. There's also been an errata, but I'm not going to go over this because I do believe that it's completely irrelevant. It hasn't actually changed the mechanic of the card itself. If you want, you can research what they've actually done on the Konami Yu-Gi-Oh blog, and you'll find everything there. I might even put the information in the description, a link to the actual blog itself. But I've got the cards that were changed in front of me right now, and I'm going to go through them all, and I'm going to essentially explain why they've actually banned them, why I believe they've banned them and limited them. First up, we have Damage Juggler. Now, if you don't know what this does, this negates battle damage as well as effect damage. If you are hit by an effect that would inflict damage, you can actually negate and destroy the card that would inflict damage. Now this stops Wavering Eyes and such cards like that, which some people would say is a problem, but I think Wavering Eyes is actually itself the problem. And I believe that this would have been fine limited to 2 or maybe even 1. So this card is really subjective. This really, if I'm honest, I don't think that this should have been hit at all. But I would have understood why they would have put it to 2 or 1. But then again, that's my opinion, and I'm not official Konami, so my opinion doesn't matter. Next one is something that I do understand: Plush Fire. Plush Fire is now banned because of the amount of plays that it could make in conjunction with Damage Juggler and the Draco Slayer monsters, as well as Wavering Eyes itself. So I understand this. This I fully agree with. This one was very strong, and I agree with its with its banning. So yeah, just to say these are banned ones that I'm going through. And finally, for banned cards, Ptolemaeus. I also agree with this being banned as well, because the fact that it allowed you to go into cards that you shouldn't really be allowed to go into. It was not very fair to be able to go into a Pleiades or a Nova Dragon, which 2 cards that you shouldn't really be allowed to go into unless you have Unbranket Magic card. So I completely agree with these 2, but Damage Juggler I'm not too sure about, but that's my opinion. And as I said, I'm not official Konami, so I do not speak on behalf of them. These ones are now limited to 1. So the first one that we have is the aforementioned Draco Slayer, which kind of makes sense, even though some people have been saying it makes sense because you get fuel monsters to fuel for your pendulum summons. But I don't think people realise, but if you only open up this and another scale 5, which is generally in the deck I used it for, I would constantly open up with this and just a Plush Fire, and that's about it, and I wouldn't be able to make any proper plays. And I don't think people realise that that was actually the problem with the actual deck itself, was the fact that you could open up with 2/5 scales and not be able to make any plays. But I understand this, even though I would have rathered it go to 2, because 2 would have been fine. Next up, Skullcrabat Joker, because it's rotor on crack, really. It's basically another type of Stratos that you don't want to have. The fact that it's a scale 8, and the fact that it can get you any Performer Power monster, Magician Pendulum monster, or Odd Ice monster, it's ridiculous, and I understand why they did that, and I'm happy that they did that. And then the final monster is Monkey Board, which again I understand. And you're going to just spread these out. Again, I understand this one, because it was an instant scale. You put that down, and then you'd have an instant scale, which is ridiculous. The fact that it's also what scale 1 made it really good. So, normal summon Skullcrobat Joker go into Monkey Board, and then you've got plays for days. You should be able to at least get a really good play in that turn. It's a bit of a weird one, this sort of midway ban list, because it's sort of, what they've done is they haven't done this for a long time. They haven't done this since Teledad format, when they had an emergency ban list then. And this is the first time in a while, so it's kind of difficult to sort of process the fact that what they've done is they've completely killed a deck, which the deck, I guess, it was very powerful, and you could argue that it was almost too powerful. And I mean, they've actually done the right thing in some respects, is not hitting Ignister and not hitting all of the other like technically archetypal specific cards. And they didn't hit the Reptile Engine, which also is kind of good, because that really wouldn't have deserved to be hit. I think that as much as they said that this is an emergency ban list that only applies to people who are going to the big Konami events, so regionals, I do believe there's a like YCS Prague coming up. Sorry for hitting the camera. YCS Prague coming up. And what they've now done in regards to that is everybody who has invested in this deck in between time is not going to be able to actually use it. They could have spent, what, £200, £300, which is probably around about $400 to $500, making this deck, which has royally screwed them over, because now they can't actually use it. So that part I think is unfair, but I do believe it was necessary in a way. This is why I'm sort of finding it hard to process, is because there are loads of people who are going to have been making these decks because they want to play them for an event, and now they've just been screwed over. What they really should have done is they should have made this a list that comes into effect after the next big YCS, because this list comes into effect on the 8th of February, which is a couple of days away. In fact, it's next Monday that it comes into effect. And that's kind of not fair on the people who are going to the big YCSs. As much as it doesn't affect me, because this isn't a deck that I play, because I play the lovely Mermails, I do believe that it was still a little bit unfair and a little bit harsh of Konami to just outright kill a deck before some people had the chance to actually play it. I'm just finding it a little bit hard. As much as I knew the deck would be hit sometime, I do believe that they should have made this a proper list, and they should have done it after the next big YCS. So, that's why I'm a bit flustered when I'm trying to think of things to say about it. It's hard to actually talk about, because I know there's going to be, the community is split on this, because you've got all of the more casual players who are saying, yes, this needed to happen, it was a deck that was so powerful, too ridiculous, which I agree with. But then you got the people who want to play competitively, and who play competitively at these events, who actually play competitively at these events, and their deck has just been completely destroyed. So I'm just going to leave this up to you guys to sort of make your own opinion on it. So I guess I'll talk to you in the next video, which should be possibly a tournament report. Maybe it might even be the next official list. I don't know what's going to happen between times. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video.